in the early stages of joining Client Ascension, what were some things you worked on to kind of set things in motion to get into this next level of scale that brought you past the 10K mark?
So like for me, I mean, relative like client ascension stuff, it was just going to all the calls. Like I just went to like as many calls as I could and slowly learned like which ones like were most helpful for me, like what I really needed.
What's going on, guys? Andre Hakel Jr. here from Client Ascension, back with another student spotlight interview. I'm here with Braden Ricchini from Client Ascension. How are we doing, brother?
Yo, what's going on, Andre?
Chilling, man, chilling. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share a little bit about your experience and feedback about the Client Ascension program. I know off camera we talked a little bit about your growth journey from starting back in May at $1.3 thousand MRR to now being over $11,000 MRR. Tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you even get into Client Ascension, and where were you at, like that 1.3K? Like, tell us what was that like?
I mean, like actually the way I got into the client ascension funnel was pretty funny. I was just like posting like editing stuff on Instagram and I did like something that was like reviewing Eddie Cumberbatch's like editing style, and like Eamon, like he was like working with them, and he like commented on it like, oh, this is my client, and I started looking at Eamon's stuff, and he was like crushing it, and then I was just wondering like who he was learning from and stuff like that, and that's how I stumbled across CA. And then I
Wow.
made my way into the funnel, watched like a Fazio interview or like just like him yelling at the camera or something, and I was like, all right, I gotta buy, I gotta hop in, and then that's how I made it into CA.
What is it about Daniel's messaging that like spoke to you? Because I hear this all the time. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
Daniel basically yelled at me through the screen, and I signed up. And it's like some people might have an opposite reaction where they're like, "Whoa, like calm down," or "What is this?" But a lot of guys, really everyone in Client Ascension,
Yeah.
one way or another, stumbled across Daniel's content and it resonated. So aside from like the yelling and the aggressive tone, what about Daniel's messaging resonated with you at the time?
I think it was the way that he still does this like super well. Like he just makes everything super simple and like easy for me to understand. And even though I wasn't like, the brightest, I'm still not the brightest. Like I was really able to understand like more complex topics, and I was just like, yeah, like these are the guys. Like I should
Yeah.
be from at least.
He does make business so simple, and like even at that event in Tampa we had last weekend,
Yeah.
I know you were there, and Daniel did a talk on ads. And to me, like ads are pretty complex. I'm not very involved with ads, like I don't do anything with it. But just from my understanding of like the ads platforms and the targeting and the messaging and the different creatives and like the tracking and the funnel, to me it's very complicated. But then Daniel gets up there and he goes through like our ad strategy and what we've been doing to grow
Yeah.
our businesses, and it just sounds so simple. And I'm like, I walk away from that presentation myself being like, oh, I could do this.
Yeah, I was like
Yeah.
excited. I was like, yeah, I can't wait till I run ads, bro. It's just like
Yeah.
that.
So that's awesome, man. That's real cool. And the fact that you found us through Eamon, who's one of our most successful students ever. I think I have 2 case study interviews with Eamon
That's
because
fine.
he joined the program at zero. Like he was
Yeah.
literally at zero, signed the client through internet money, and then invested that into Client Ascension, and then grew to over $100,000 a month. He's crushing it. But that's cool that he also, just
Yeah.
by sharing his story, put a lot of you guys on. So, in the early stages of joining Client Ascension, what were some things you worked on to kind of set things in motion to get into this next level of scale that brought you past the 10K mark?
So like for me, I mean, relative like client ascension stuff, it was just going to all the calls. Like I just went to like as many calls as I could and slowly learned like which ones like were most helpful for me, like what I really needed. But like honestly, I just needed work like all around, like sending outreach, styling like my operations, sales, literally everything. And that's what I think like CA was really helpful with, because it's basically just like kind of, it's so broad, which is nice for me because I was like such a beginner. I didn't know where to even start. So just like attending all those calls, asking questions when I could, and then just kind of like finding which calls like actually helped me get to that next level was like the most important for sure.
Yeah, and just for the audience, people not in Client Ascension, like what are some of those calls? Because obviously I'm one of the founders here. I know how the program is designed. We make it so that there's at least 2 coaching calls every single day on various topics that agency owners need to sharpen the axe for in order to scale. And so what are some of those coaching calls that had a big impact on you early on?
I mean, there's definitely too many for me to even name, but I guess like David's sales coaching call I go to a lot, Dylan Rich's call because I do like a lot of like DMs and stuff.
Yeah, like setter outreach.
Yeah, which is like really helpful. Your call I've gone to a good amount. Honestly, like office hour calls, like I don't know if people like would know, but I have like the SSC, like Shen, like has helped me out a lot. Like just having like that daily accountability is like really helpful for me. Mario's calls, there's so many in there. It's like
Yeah, yeah, and then we got like Daniel for offers, Nick Verge for
yeah,
VSL. And it's like it's cool because in the agency game, it's like you focus on one thing at a time, and maybe sometimes you focus on a bunch of things, but like yeah, like I'll reference like Nick Verge VSL, and it's like, dude, that content and Kajabi
yeah,
that we have on VSLs with like the creative brief and Nick's style of doing VSLs is like best in the game. And most people forget about it because it's like they did
yeah,
it so long ago. But yeah, there's just so much to consume because there's a lot of areas you have to cover as an agency owner. There's marketing, there's sales, there's fulfillment, and it's also just establishing the offer to begin with, which a
yeah.
lot of guys that come into the program, they don't have like a finalized offer yet, which is something we help with. So it is like broad in the sense of like it helps with every area
Mhm.
of scaling an agency, but you can go in depth on any of those areas
Yeah.
like you're talking about with sales, working with David, doing call reviews, getting your sales scripts reviewed, doing mock calls, and even carrying these conversations into the SSC team channels, which are the student success coaches you get assigned to. What's that been like just for the audience? They might not be totally familiar with like the SSC processes and what that's all about.
So I mean, for me, I found that to be like one of the most beneficial things. I don't know if it's the same for other people with like SSCs. Just like Shen literally, just holds me accountable. He's like basically your personalized like coach almost.
Mm,
And he's kind of just like, we have our BHAs like every month, so he knows a lot about my business and like knows like the areas that I'm struggling with, the areas that I'm doing well on. So even if I'm just hopping on like office hours, we can just like chop it up if I have like easy questions, and he can give me more like personalized feedback on like what to actually implement or like what's best for my business like right now. So I think that's been like really helpful as well.
yeah, just having someone like Shen too. Funny enough about Shen is he was like the first or second student that ever
Mhm.
joined Client Ascension along with David, who's now the sales coach, like 3 or 4 years to at this point. And so they know the program in and out. They've been there as long as any of the founders have been there. And it's cool now to see them work with all these new students coming into the program and helping them navigate like, hey, there's a lot to do as a new agency owner. Here's
Yeah.
what you should prioritize and do now instead of getting distracted. So, anyways, there's so much to talk about when it comes to just client ascension in general, and we can go a ton of different ways. But one of the areas that I wanted to focus on, at least for this interview, since it's so fresh, is the event. So one of the best parts or aspects of client ascension is the community. So
Mhm.
yeah, we teach, yeah, we have coaching calls, yeah, we have great content and can help you in Slack with your SSCs, but the community is everything, man. Like just bringing students together. Like I'm sure you've already met Eamon and some of the other guys that you saw before joining the program. But what was it like to be on in-person event, seeing guys that you see on Slack or on Zoom calls every day?
It was cool. It was just cool to be around like people who are like-minded individuals, whether people at the same stage that I'm at, they're kind of like, 10K a month mark. And then there's the people who I'm talking with who are making like, a couple hundred grand per month. Like even just having like little conversations with them was like just cool and like eye opening to like see how they think about stuff and how they kind of like operate. And then also to just talk with some dudes who are like doing the same stuff that I'm doing. Like that was cool because it's not very common to run an agency at 23 years old. Like none of my boys in my hometown are really doing that. So like it was cool to like pull up in an Airbnb, with like 5 other guys who are running an agency, stuff like that. So just like a cool experience.
Yeah, dude, it's so normalized within our community, but then you step outside of the community and it's like no one knows what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And like I come from a small town in upstate New York. I'm actually here right now, and it's like no one here knows what I'm talking about when it comes to like agencies. And I have my girlfriend at the last event, and she doesn't come from this space at all. And she's like, "What the hell is going on? What are these guys talking about? What are all these kids doing to make money? Like it doesn't make any sense." And so like it's cool, right? Like that, you're kind of like you're doing things differently, but then at the same time, it's like discouraging in a sense, and it can get lonely, especially as
Yeah.
things get tougher and tougher, and you're having good days and bad days, and client issues and slow sales seasons, whatever it might be. So just being able to talk to other guys that do the same exact thing and makes it feel normal is so needed. And that's what I love about Client Ascension. Just the ability to connect with a lot of like-minded people doing exactly what you're doing. So that's really cool, man. And how about like meeting some of the team and coaches in person as well?
Yeah, yeah, it was cool. I mean, the keynotes were cool, and just like also just seeing that you guys are just normal dudes. Like you guys just, I've been in the game for like a while, but you guys are just, normal guys. Like you crack jokes, you hang out. Yeah, it was like eye opening in a sense because it's like, there's no reason why I can't be at that level. So
Yeah, and that's always my message at events. It's like, dude, like we're all on the same playing field. Like I've been to the events where you go and you feel like lower than whoever the people are that are putting on the event, and you almost feel like closed off from being able to like access them or get time to speak with them after, because it's kind of like they're roped off, and I always got like a weird vibe from that. And then even at those events, the people in the audience, there's not like this sense of connection. You look around the room and people are like on their phones and they're not really talking to each other. At a
yeah,
client ascension event, it's like everyone's assimilated, everyone's in conversation with someone. No
yeah,
one's like awkwardly in the corner, like not talking to anyone or just doing something completely different than what's happening at the event. And it's just so cool, man. It just shows like the I think the authenticity of the community and like how much people actually do care about each other's success and helping one another out. And that's what it's all about, dude. It's fun to grow a business, but if you can't share that with others that you actually like are boys with, and share your learnings with someone and see how it affects or impacts their business, like that's what makes it so much more fun than just, hey, like I grew from 1K to 11K, you
yeah,
know. So that's awesome, bro. What were some challenges you faced through the program so far? I mean, obviously results 1K to 11K in just a couple of months are awesome, but like it's never a smooth ride
yeah.
to the top. And so what were some challenges you faced and how do you overcome them?
I mean, challenges just like literally everything, I guess. But like specifically, I mean, operations like a big thing for me. When I came in, I didn't even know how to like hire editors. So like, even if I did get like an influx of clients or like one-off projects, like I could only fulfill so
Mm.
much. So that was like one of the first things is like just dialing in like where to find good candidates and stuff like that. And you helped me out a lot with that stuff, but also like talking to guys like Eamon and like Steven, like I was able to just know like what's working right now and like what they're doing to get like good editors. So that was really helpful. DM stuff like with Dylan Rich, like that was a big thing because I wasn't getting calls on the calendar. I literally had no calls on the calendar. I don't even, yeah, my first few deals before CA were just like a couple $100 close to the DMs.
Mm.
So actually getting like a process in place was pretty helpful as well. But I would say those are kind of like the two biggest things. Definitely
Yeah.
like options, I would say there's a huge thing because like I said, if I didn't have editors, then I can't even take on more clients. So
Jeez, yeah. It's crazy, man. Like there's all these bottlenecks that right now you're not thinking about, and even before,
yeah,
like you said, you weren't even thinking about like, hey, like I want to bring on a bunch of clients, but wait a second, I need to hire and I don't even know how to hire. And so again, like agencies are not like the most simple business model. You have to be thinking about each department at the same time. It's got to be marketing, sales, and fulfillment all working
hmm
together. Otherwise, it pretty much just falls apart. So being able to like operate on a day-to-day basis in each of those departments, because you're a solo founder, right? You're just
yeah,
working
yeah,
on your own. Yeah. So man, like that's not easy, and like things pop up in different departments that you might not even be thinking about that
yeah,
day that you just have to jump to and manage. But I love how you said like, man, what went wrong? Everything. And it's like that's just business, bro. Once you can get used to that,
yeah,
waking up and just expecting problems to come your way and just getting excited about the opportunity to go out and solve them, then you win. It's just
yeah,
most people can't stick with it long enough because they get burnt out by all the problems and all the negativity that swirl
yeah,
around, like
yeah.
trying to achieve something.
Yeah, and I definitely hit that moment at one point where I was like just like so down on myself, and I remember David just like yelled at me. David just like started yelling at me, and I was like, all right, I'm. I basically was better after that, and I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
He
And
put my
that's
head
part of it,
straight.
bro. That's part of it. So like the reason why I kind of built Client Ascension to begin with is like I grew up in a small town, and it's like no one here I can relate to about building an online business. And when there were downtimes, it was like, dude, like who do I talk to about this? Like
Yeah,
no one will really understand. And it sounds like wishy-washy, but it's like that's part of the day-to-day of running a business or doing anything, is like you need a support group. You need a team. You
Yeah.
need people you can go to get help and opinions from on certain things that are happening. Otherwise, you just are stuck in your own head. And even if you have the answers and are like a good operator, it's really easy to just get like this bias around what you should do or how things are going. And you get really down or really up. And it's just like this roller coaster that's super unsustainable. So when you are in like this valley, it's so nice to be able to go to someone like David or someone in the program, even if it's another student, and just kind of get a reality check of like, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. Like, what should I do? And it's like, hey, dude, this is normal. Like, just keep going.
Yeah.
And it's like just that little pep talk
Mhm.
could be what keeps you from, fully quitting on this thing.
Yeah.
So I love it, bro. Last question I really like to ask is like, what kind of feedback do you have, or I guess advice? What kind of advice do you have for people that are in the agency game outside of joining Client Ascension? I always say that's like the number one piece of advice is to join Client Ascension. But outside of that, like to younger agency owners that are just getting started, maybe they're at their first, 1K a month.
Yeah.
They're just validating their offer. Like, what's one thing to focus on that maybe you weren't even thinking about focusing on until you're at where you are now at past the 10K MRR?
I guess like one thing to focus on, it's hard to put it on that, but I would just say that the biggest like takeaway I've gotten is just like to like stay in the game and just like
Yeah.
just like you can't quit. Like you just gotta like keep pushing. Like don't switch your offer 9 different times. Like you're just hurt yourself in the long run. If you're a video editor for 2 years, like you're just gonna become like the video editor in the space, and like people are eventually just gonna like it all just like compounds and like comes back to you. So it's just like sticking to the same thing and just doing it for a long enough time, you're basically bound to just, succeed as long as you have like the right processes, right systems in place. You kind of have to get things like organized and kind of just find out what doesn't work. Like that was a big thing early on, just find out what doesn't work, because the odds of you just like having a click right away is just not really gonna happen. So it was a lot of figuring out what I was doing wrong and then kind of making basically.
Yeah, dude, and that's the same advice I gave. I think I even mentioned it in my presentation at the event last weekend. It's like the key to success is just doing something for a long enough period of time.
Yeah.
Another way to put it is just outlast your competition. And especially in like today's age where it's really easy to spin up a business or come up with an idea and get things in place and then pivot right to the next thing. Guys don't really stick, competition in general doesn't really stick around long. And I've seen this at all of our businesses, Client Ascension, Knowledge XR Agency, ListKit, our SaaS. It's like every couple of months, the sales team will be like, hey, like these are the guys that prospects or clients are mentioning as like a competitor that they're considering. And it's always different. And it's like the competitors that people were telling us on sales calls 6 months ago aren't even around anymore. And it's like, all you have to do is outlast them, right? You might not win every single deal in the short term against your competition, but if you just stay in business longer than them, you end up winning all the deals eventually.
Exactly.
And yeah, that's like the best business advice ever, bro. Is just outlast the competition.
Yeah, literally. It's that simple, bro. It's that simple.
I love it. Yeah, and Daniel's, famous presentation style, it's really simplifying it down to that. So, anyways, Braden, congrats on the results, bro. What's your wildly important goal now? What's next for you in the agency?
I mean, like 30K a month. Like that's kind of like that's on my lock screen. So
Hell yeah, bro. I'm sure in due time you'll hit it. Do you have a goal for when you want to hit it by?
yeah, like January, February, but we'll get
Just
there.
a couple months away.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
dude. Well, keep pushing, keep showing up every single day consistently, doing all the things that you already know what to do, and getting help from the guys in the program, the coaches, your SSC, the other students, myself included. And yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on and sharing more about your story and experience with the program. The last thing I'll ask you is if you could just share with the audience where they can follow you online. I always say for people in Client Ascension, easiest way is to just DM you on Slack and establish the connection there. But anywhere else they can find you online, and even the website for your agency.
Yeah, online I'm just Braden Rakini. That's like my Twitter and my YouTube, so you can find me there. Business name is Grow Pro Socials, and that's kind of like where the website's at. So
Sweet. All right, Braden, appreciate you, bro. Keep crushing it, and we'll have you back on just like we did with Eamon.
yes, sir. I
So
appreciate it.
people will find you then through your own funnel, and we'll create the same success story all over again.
Yes, sir.
All right. Peace, bro. Good stuff.